Story 1. Breakups are always messy, but I never thought mine would turn into a nightmare. I never thought I'd be standing in my living room at 3 a.m., listening to someone breathing on the other side of my bedroom door. I dated Chris for 3 years. At first, he was just protective, but that quickly turned into something much worse. He controlled everything. Where I went, who I talked to, even what I wore. The final straw was when he grabbed my wrist so hard during an argument that I had bruises for days. That night, I packed my things and left while he was at work. I thought I was free. Then weird things started happening. At first, it was little things, feeling watched when I walked home, my locked door slightly ajar when I got home. Then it escalated. One night, I heard scratching at my window. I live on the second floor, but nothing compared to what happened last week. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of heavy breathing. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Then I noticed something. My bedroom door, it was open. I always lock it before bed. Then I heard it, a slow, deliberate inhale, and it wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from just outside the door. My heart pounded. I reached for my phone, but my fingers were shaking too hard to dial 911. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. Then, creak. A floorboard right outside my bedroom door groaned under the weight of something. I couldn't breathe. I had two choices: stay and hope he didn't come in, or make a run for it. I bolted. I ran straight into my living room, flung open the front door, and ran to my neighbor's place. I pounded on their door, screaming. Their lights flicked on, and as they opened the door, I turned back. My bedroom door was wide open, but no one was there. The police never found him. My locks were still intact, but that was the night I knew Chris wasn't done with me yet. Story 2. We all know we should be careful online, but what if the person stalking you online used to know everything about you? My ex Derek was controlling. When I finally broke up with him, I blocked him on everything. I thought that was the end of it. Then I started getting friend requests from strangers. The first one was a girl named Maya. She had a full profile, pictures, posts, and even mutual friends. I assumed she was someone I had met at a party or something, and accepted. Then came the messages. At first they were normal, but soon she started bringing up things about my past, inside jokes I had with Derek, places I used to go with him. Then she sent a message that made my blood run cold. Remember the time we watched the sunset on the rooftop? You looked so happy. Only Derek knew about that. I confronted him, but he denied everything. I didn't believe him. I dug deeper into Maya's profile, reverse searched her pictures, and found out they were stolen from some random Instagram account. Maya wasn't real. Derek had been watching me through a fake profile, talking to me every day without me knowing. I changed my number, deleted my social media, and moved across the city. To this day, I don't accept friend requests unless I know the person. Story 3. There's something deeply disturbing about hearing footsteps in your basement when you know you're home alone. My ex Jake had always been unpredictable. When we were together, he had these strange mood swings. One moment, he'd be the sweetest guy, and the next, he'd lash out over the smallest thing. It wasn't physical at first, but the way he'd slam doors, punch walls, and break things during arguments terrified me. The final straw was when he grabbed my arm so hard during a fight that I had bruises. I left that night and never looked back, or so I thought. I moved to a new place, an older house in a quiet neighborhood. I felt safe for a while, but then things started happening. It began with the phone calls. Late at night, my phone would ring once, then stop. The number was always unknown. Then, I started hearing strange noises at night, soft scratching at my back door, the occasional sound of shuffling outside my window. I told myself it was just my imagination or the house settling. Then, one night, I heard something I couldn't ignore. I was home alone watching TV when I heard a noise, a creaking sound like someone stepping on old wooden stairs, my basement stairs. I froze. The sound was faint but distinct, slow, deliberate steps. I muted the TV and strained my ears. The house was silent for a moment. Then, another step. A chill ran down my spine. I never go down to the basement at night. I barely go down there at all. It's unfinished, cold, and only used for storage. No one should be down there. My first thought was that maybe an animal had gotten inside, but these were heavy footsteps, one after the other. Someone was walking down there. I tiptoed to the basement door and pressed my ear against it. Silence. Then bang. Something slammed against the door from the other side. I screamed and ran for the front door, fumbling with the lock in my panic. By the time I got outside and called the cops, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. The police arrived quickly and searched the entire basement. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. The basement windows were locked. The door was still bolted from my side. The officers assured me that no one could have been down there, but I know what I heard. I barely slept that night, but the worst part came the next morning. When I went to check the basement door again, I noticed something I hadn't seen the night before. The latch on the basement window wasn't just old, it was broken. It looked like it had been tampered with from the outside. I moved out a week later. To this day, I don't know if it was Jake. I never saw him again. But I do know one thing. Whoever was in my basement that night didn't come to talk. Story 4. A month after breaking up with my ex, Seth, I started noticing something strange in my backyard. A mannequin. At first, I thought it was a prank, maybe some neighborhood kids messing around. It stood near the tree line, facing my house. It was old, missing one of its arms, and its head was slightly tilted. The next morning, it was closer. I still thought it was a joke. Maybe the wind knocked it forward. But the night after that, it was even closer. One night, I was lying in bed when I heard a soft tap, tap, tap against my bedroom window. My stomach dropped. I slowly turned my head, and there it was, the mannequin. Standing right outside my window, I screamed and ran out of my room, but when I got the courage to go back and check, it was gone. I called the cops. They searched the yard and found nothing. The next night, I was too scared to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard something rustling outside. I peeked through the blinds and my blood turned to ice. The mannequin was standing on my back porch. This time there was a note in its hand. I didn't want to open the door, so I waited for daylight. When I finally stepped outside, I saw the note taped to its chest. It said, "You'll never leave me." I moved out that day. Was it Seth? Or something else? I don't know, but I haven't seen another mannequin since. Story 5. It started with the mirrors. My ex, Brandon, had always been obsessed with my appearance. When we dated, he'd make me look in the mirror and tell me how perfect I was. After we broke up, I didn't think much about it, until I moved into my new apartment. Every morning, I'd wake up and notice my bedroom mirror was slightly tilted toward my bed. No matter how many times I fixed it, it would always move back. Then one night, I was brushing my teeth when I saw something. A handprint on the mirror. I wiped it away, trying to convince myself I was just seeing things. But the next morning, there were more handprints. Then I started hearing noises. At first, it was faint, like someone whispering my name. But one night, as I was getting into bed, I looked at my mirror and saw something that made my heart stop. A figure was standing behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The next morning, I woke up to find something carved into the glass. "I see you." I didn't stay to see what happened next. I packed my bags and left. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a picture of my old mirror, with the words, "I still do." Story 6. Breakups are never easy, but mine ended in pure terror. I dated Zach for almost 2 years. At first, he was charming, funny, and affectionate. But the longer we were together, the more I realized how obsessed he was with me. He constantly accused me of cheating, checked my phone when I wasn't looking, and even started following me when I went out with friends. When I finally had enough and broke up with him, he didn't take it well. He texted me over 100 times a day, called me at all hours, and even showed up at my job. I blocked him, changed my number, and eventually moved into a new apartment just to get away from him. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Then, one night, I heard a soft scratching noise coming from my bedroom closet. At first, I thought it was a mouse, or maybe something had fallen off a shelf. But when I got up and turned on the light, the sound stopped. I slowly opened the closet door. Nothing. This happened again the next night. But this time, I swore I heard breathing coming from inside. I was too scared to open the closet, so I forced myself to go to sleep. But I barely got any rest, lying awake, listening. Then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., my bedroom closet door creaked open on its own. I bolted upright, my heart racing. There was no wind, no reason for the door to move. But there it was, open. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it toward the closet. I saw nothing but darkness. I spent the rest of the night in my living room with every light in the apartment on. The next morning, I called my landlord and asked if he could come check the closet. He reluctantly agreed. When he opened it up, he stared for a long time before saying, "Did you know the closet has a crawl space?" "A what?" I stepped forward and saw it, a small, hidden door in the back wall of the closet, one I had never noticed before. When my landlord opened it, we both nearly screamed. Inside the crawl space, someone had been living there. There were empty food wrappers, a blanket, and worst of all, a notebook full of my name written over and over again. The police came and investigated. The person was gone, but they found fingerprints. They belonged to Zach. I moved out the next day. Story 7. I broke up with Jessica over a year ago. She was intense. She had a jealous streak and a temper that scared me sometimes, but she was also the type of person who never really left your life. She'd pop up at places I went, send me texts from random numbers, and make fake social media accounts to follow me. I thought I was done with her. Then last week, I was scrolling through old pictures on my phone, deleting random ones to clear up space. I went through vacation photos, group pictures, and some old selfies. Then I saw it, a picture of me sleeping, taken inside my bedroom. My heart started racing. I swiped to the next picture. There was another one, me in the shower, taken from the slight crack in the bathroom door. Then one more, me sitting at my desk, staring at my computer screen. All of these were taken recently, and I had never taken them. The worst part, I lived alone. Story 8. My ex Tyler always had a weird sense of humor. He liked to scare me for fun, hiding in dark corners, sending creepy texts pretending to be a stranger, sneaking into my house and jumping out at me. I hated it, but I thought it was just his way of messing around. After we broke up, I told him to leave me alone. He didn't. One night, I was walking home from a late shift at work when I got the feeling I was being followed. I glanced back and saw someone in a Halloween mask, a blank, featureless face with hollow eyes. At first, I thought it was just some random person messing around, but they were walking at the exact same pace as me. I crossed the street. So did they. I sped up. So did they. My heart started pounding. I reached my apartment building, fumbled with my keys, and practically sprinted inside. I locked the door behind me and went straight to my window. The person in the mask was standing right outside, just staring. I closed the blinds, turned off the lights, and called my friend to come over. When she arrived, we peeked outside together. The masked person was gone. But on my doorstep, there was a note. It just said, "Scared yet?" I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Tyler's. Story 9. I was on a weekend road trip with my new boyfriend when I realized something. Everywhere we went, there was a black SUV parked nearby. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. But when we stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, I noticed the same SUV pull up just a few pumps away. I casually glanced inside, and my stomach dropped. It was my ex, Mark. I hadn't seen him in over a year, and yet, here he was, hundreds of miles from home. I didn't tell my boyfriend right away. I didn't want to ruin the trip. But later that night, when we checked into our motel, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The black SUV was parked right outside our room. I locked the door and tried to act normal. But in the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of scraping at the window. I held my breath. The room was dark, but I could make out a figure standing just outside. My phone vibrated, a text message from an unknown number. Nice place. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Story 10. After breaking up with my ex Leah, I moved into a new apartment for a fresh start. It was small, kind of old, but it was mine. Then, one night, as I was laying in bed, I heard something. A whisper. At first I thought it was coming from outside, but then I realized it was coming from inside the walls. I sat up, frozen. The whispering grew louder, clearer. I pressed my ear against the wall, and I heard it. A woman's voice. It said, "I miss you." I stumbled backward, grabbed my phone, and ran out of the apartment. The next day, maintenance came to check the walls. They found a small, hidden crawl space behind the drywall. Inside, there was a sleeping bag and a phone charger plugged into my outlet. I never found out if it was Leah, but I never went back inside that apartment again.